Thank you. Yep. So I'm a principal data scientist. I do a lot of marketing stuff, so measuring effectiveness of marketing. So if we give you an ad for a show, do people go and watch it? The project I'm presenting today is more about how to actually create what we call marketing assets, but like an image to promote a show. There's a lot of kind of software engineering, data engineering-y stuff, very little machine learning, which makes it kind of an ideal data science project. So I'm going to cover kind of what's the business problem, what we're trying to tackle, how we've kind of approached that, kind of our solution for creating these images that we need. Obviously, it's Python conference, so I'll cover how we're doing that in Python. And then the system we built is like fully automated, so everything's happening. There's no human in the loop, or no human checking anything before it kind of gets audience facing. So I've got a couple of sections on how we're kind of making sure that everything's editorially safe and that kind of thing. So the kind of background for this is what I've called long tail consumption, which is the idea that you have kind of loads of shows on your streaming platform, but some of them get loads of viewing, and then you've got this kind of long tail of stuff that gets very little viewing each. So for one particular day in March, this is kind of a typical viewing pattern. The top 15 shows contribute about a third of all that viewing, so like actually quite a significant chunk of the viewing on iPlayer is from just a few shows. We get another third from the next 63 shows, so they're already down to kind of a quarter of the popularity of those top shows. And then the last third comes from 97% of content, which individually gets very little viewing. But when you sum it up over the volume of content, you get a third of viewing. To put that into kind of marketing and money terms, we tend to only kind of put full marketing support budget behind the top 20 shows. So it's those top 15, a handful of the next batch. So put all that together, half of viewing on iPlayer comes from shows that we're not kind of really aggressively marketing. So huge potential for promoting stuff that we're not currently promoting, and hopefully kind of drive up the viewing of that. The skew towards people that are watching it tends to be kind of the more engaged people, the people that come into iPlayer as a destination. They already kind of have some idea of what we've got. And so what we kind of want to do is promote that to people that are less frequent. So we've got this kind of potential of loads of shows that we can promote. If you want to promote a show, you need images to promote those shows. And if you've got you need thousands of images, it's not really practical, which is why all of that marketing budget goes to the top shows, because it costs quite a lot to create those images. So what we've come up with is what we've called dynamic creative, which is a way of us creating these templates for marketing assets. So all shows have images, static images. So I can't really point, but in the top left, there's a little picture of Louis Theroux, if you can see that. They've all got this 16:9 aspect ratio image that that's on iPlayer. It can't be on iPlayer without one of them. So we always have that. And then for most shows, we have that vertical one as well. So the idea behind the dynamic creative is using those static images that we have for everything and kind of aggregating or putting them into an asset that works in different marketing spaces. So the top left one is Sky TV. So if you've got Sky TV, we've got a similar one on Apple as well. This is like a grid view of images. I think we were probably the last streaming service to have an image like this, so you're probably all familiar with it. But because we're using standard images, when the content changes in iPlayer, we can very easily swap them out and change. So Louis Theroux, latest documentary was on Netflix. We can put Louis Theroux in that spot and tell people we've actually got a load more documentaries if you enjoyed that. The middle at the bottom, that's kind of an example of where we're promoting a single title, but we've changed the aspect ratio to a square. So we can use that in paid social, and I talk a lot about that in this presentation. And then on the right, we've got a couple of videos as well, so things zoom around. we can promote kind of breadth of content there as well. That's where we're pulling in BBC recommendations. So we have a recommendation that is, if you like Demandaland, what else are people watching? And we're using that to populate all of those other shows. And that means that we're kind of not doing a huge amount of work because we're just pulling in those models, but we get things that are editorially safe and kind of similar content. And then we've got a bit of a swankier one for pre-rolls. So if you watch a show on iPlayer, you get a little trailer before. This is going to play.
Looking for your next show? We've got you covered.
So similar idea, you've got breadth of content there, and then it heroes on one particular show. It's got voiceover as well. There's a lot we can do with this to kind of change accents and make it a bit more personal to different groups of people. Films are a good example of where we might use that, because we don't have like video trailers for a show. We spend a lot of money to get films. We don't have any trailers. We don't buy the cinematic trailers. We don't tell anyone that we have films, but we paid a lot of money to get like the Tom Holland Spider-Man and stuff. So we have images. We can create this kind of ad and tell people about them. So the point is, we're not trying to be better than a video. So if it's a big drama, we're going to have a video trailer. It's going to work better. But for those shows, things like films, things like the stuff that's not in the top 20, this allows us to be able to at least promote the shows that we have. Let's discuss AI, because that's always something people ask about. For the middle, this square one in the bottom corner, or bottom in the middle, we're basically taking a rectangle and making it square. We've explored kind of generative fill, all sorts of issues with that. We did an example to begin with, and it kind of demonstrated why you shouldn't do it, because we took Joel Dommett. He had an image. It was kind of from the waist up, and then we added legs to him, which firstly we edited his appearance without his permission. We gave him legs stood up. He might be in a wheelchair. So all sorts of issues there. We just can't get everyone to sign off on us editing. This particular example, we have absolutely no idea what her body shape is, so all sorts of problems there. Cropping, we can do, we're exploring that. We just have some issues with the fact that the words are in the image, so you can very easily clip to her face to get a square, but what do you do with the words, because you're kind of chopping that off? So we're trying to get that background image separate. Okay, so what is dynamic creative? To summarize, it's a way of templating marketing creative that allows us to utilize those kind of static images, and because it's very easy to swap out those images, we can scale it. Okay, so we've now got a use case. We've got loads of shows we want to promote. We've got a way of creating assets. How do we then get them in front of people? We've gone down the route of catalogue ads. So these are a paid social ad format, typically designed for e-commerce, which is why there's a picture there with some clothing. The idea is that you give, Meta is kind of our first one, a list of all of your products in this case, and some metadata and images, and they decide who gets which one. So you can kind of, this hasn't been put together as a single ad. Shein, I believe is the correct pronunciation, have just given individual items to Meta, and they've decided that this is clothing that this particular person might like. And so we want to kind of utilize that for our content. Meta is building out an entertainment version of this, because all the streaming services are trying to do a similar thing. So there's kind of a little bit extra for the fact that you're a streaming service. So the pros of this is it's great for breadth of content. We don't need to kind of, we can if we've got those images and individual shows, we can very easily aggregate it into lots of personal assets. The algorithm's very good in social platforms. We have some control, so we can target 16 to 35s, for example, so younger audiences, and Meta will optimize for that. And then the other thing we're doing is sending play events through Conversion API, or CAPI. So Facebook is optimizing for people watching stuff on iPlayer, not just clicks on their platforms. The downside of this, and this is where dynamic creative comes in, they have their own requirements on the images that they need, and neither are the ones that we've got. BBC Sounds, which is our audio app, is a lot easier because we already have square assets, so we kind of just give all of those over, which is why everything's kind of focused on iPlayer, because we don't have those square images. Okay, so where are we at? We've got a use case, we can create assets, and we know how to at least get them in front of some audiences. The next bit I'm going to cover is how do you actually do that in Python, because this is a Python conference. And the first part of that is some software. We're using Adobe After Effects. If you haven't seen it, that's what it looks like. That's not what it looks. Oh yeah, that's what it looks like. So in the middle, you've got kind of that square asset that you've seen before. And then in the bottom left, you've got kind of the different layers. So After Effects works on layers. You kind of have stuff, and then it has some idea of what's in front of the others. And in the grey, you probably can't see, but it's called horizontal asset.jpg, which is a file name. So unlike PowerPoint, where you import an image into PowerPoint and it has a copy of it, if you delete the image on your computer, your PowerPoint slides still work. Adobe After Effects doesn't do that. It's reading from the file system. And you can see kind of in the middle left, that's the file system on my computer, and it's got that JPEG file name there. And so what we're doing is exploiting the fact that Adobe After Effects is pulling in the image to basically be able to change the image on your computer without actually having to open After Effects, and it knows to pull in the next version. And then there's a process called rendering, which tells After Effects to like actually go and create an image using the current version. So the idea is we change the image, tell After Effects to create the asset, change the image again, just repeat that. And you can do that from either the terminal or Python. So it comes, After Effects comes with this AE render executable that you can run from the terminal. So now you can download the image using Python, store it in the right place, and tell After Effects from Python to go and create your asset. The other part to this is our content management system, which is called iChef. So if you ever want a nice high-quality image of an iPlayer show, if you go to iPlayer, just right-click the image, open image in new tab, and it'll take you through to the API endpoint for iChef. You type the word raw in there, it gives you the high-definition version. That's the exact same thing that I'm doing. So I can just hit that iChef URL, and it downloads the image. The missing piece for you is that you don't know what that image ID is for a particular show, but you can manually go and do it. A bit of Python code, but nothing special. It's just using the request package to download. And then obviously, I've got access to a database that has catalogued all the images for a particular show. So if I want an asset for Amandaland, I know which image to go and get. So I've talked about kind of the practicalities of how we do that in Python, and that's going to cover how we've kind of put this into a full pipeline to automate it. So we've got two parts to this. The first part runs daily and goes and looks at what is available on iPlayer and who's watching it. So we're getting the stuff that people are watching and kind of filtering out the stuff that no one's watching. And then we've got some parameters passing in. So which templates do we want? We want the square one. And that contains the information about what that file name is, where we need to save it to. All that gets aggregated together when we get a JSON at the end that's saying, get an image from this URL, put it in this file location, and we dump that in S3. We then got another pipeline that's watching the S3 bucket for when a JSON gets dropped in there, and it triggers that rendering process. So it gets that JSON, gives it to a virtual machine that's got After Effects, and then it basically runs that Python script that I showed you a few slides ago, and then sticks it into Dropbox. So we then have this Dropbox folder with thousands of assets in. So that gets us the assets. How do we then get them into the catalog ads? So for that, I'm just going to cover what do we mean by the catalog. It's basically just a CSV. It's nothing fancy. So it looks a bit like this, if you haven't seen a CSV before. The left two columns, you just got an ID and show. You've got the images. They're called images, but you can have videos in there as well. So we're using Dropbox share links. So we just generate the share links to our images. The additional image column is just a comma-separated list of lots of things. There can videos in there as well. And then some metadata. So useful one here is expiration date. So we can put in the date when a show is no longer available on iPlayer, and Facebook knows not to promote that show because it's not available anymore. And then some, at the minute, fairly rudimentary kind of genres and stuff like that. We've got new and trending in there as a label, so that's whether or not it sits in that. If you go to iPlayer, there's a rail that's new and trending, so it's matching what is available on product. And then Meta uses that metadata to kind of aggregate things up. So someone might get a drama collection, someone might get new and trending, which has some comedy, some drama, some factual. So we have a separate pipeline to generate that CSV. So this runs daily. First part goes through Dropbox. So once we've got all that Dropbox file with all the images, we're just trawling through that and generating share links. So the Dropbox API can do that. Managing things like if a show's no longer available, we kind of end access to the share links. So Meta doesn't have unlimited access to all of our assets. And then there's some kind of configuration from the marketing team. So what platform are they going for? They're going for Meta, so we need Square assets. Do you want factual content? That's kind of a bit of a tricky one because we have stuff that as a public broadcaster we need to cover, but we don't necessarily want to use it in paid social. And then we kind of aggregate all of that together, pull in things like what's in the new and trending rail, put that all together in a CSV, and then we just put it in Dropbox. And Meta has this kind of live link where they can pull in from that Dropbox. So this bit is essentially just creating a CSV in Dropbox that Meta is pulling from. And that's it. So we've got that. Those first two pipelines that are creating the assets as soon as something's on iPlayer. And then we've got this part that is then passing it over to Meta. It takes, a day, possibly two, depending on how. These are all running asynchronously, so sometimes things can get a bit out of sync. But as soon as a new show is launched, it's automatically being promoted on Meta within 24 to 48 hours. Just about the Dropbox API, if you've not used it, I mean, it's fairly straightforward. Ask ChatGPT if you don't know how to use it. The only thing from kind of a production workflow is it's got this idea of a refresh token. So you've got to kind of create an app in the app console and Dropbox, which is fine. And then it gives you an access token, which only lasts for 4 hours. And then you've got to refresh it, which obviously doesn't work in production. But you can generate what's called a refresh token, which allows it to basically generate that itself. And then you kind of, classic Python, pass those secrets in and off you go. So we've got this full kind of closed loop system where people are just putting content on iPlayer and then we're automatically promoting it. We obviously want to check that things are going well. So we've got various safeguards in place. I'll cover kind of the more standard data-y ones that are just kind of, data checks. We've got some that kind of flag issues, and we've got some that break things. So the ones that kind of get flagged, we've got duplicates. So sometimes we'll get kind of the same asset twice. It's not a major issue if the image is fine and the show's fine, but it just means that Meta can kind of waste some time and our money trying to optimize between two assets that are the same. Mostly that was caused by Dropbox not syncing. Using the APIs fixed that. But we do also occasionally get the wrong image appearing in the asset. I haven't worked out why. It's always either the previous asset or the following asset, but I don't know why. So they get flagged. Both of those get identified that there's a problem with this asset, and then we just drop it and we don't put it in the CSV, but the assets still sit there. And then we've got some breaking errors as well. So as you might imagine, we've got a block list, which is stuff that we don't want to promote. There's just a lot of content on iPlayer that is great, informative, but you don't necessarily want to be kind of utilizing that to get people onto your platform. And then we've got checks for things like nulls, wrong date formats and things like that that can break meta. And then in kind of a fairly standard software engineering way, we create that CSV, we run all these checks. If it breaks, we don't update the current version that Meta has access to. So Meta can keep promoting the stuff that it was promoting yesterday until we fix the problem. Then the more exciting stuff, some AI bits. So I mentioned that sometimes we get the wrong image. We basically built a very simple check for that. You can pass in images to ChatGPT and say, are these the same? And it's pretty good at identifying whether or not it's got the same image in the middle or not. That's the Python code. You basically give it the image URL. So we're giving it that iChef URL, and then the Dropbox share link, and it's able to pull them in and work out whether or not the image is correct. The other bit of AI, we get images like this with the word new series in. So if there's a returning series or a new series of a returning show, we'll get these images with the word new series baked into the image and no metadata to tell us that it's got the word new series in it. Obviously, we don't really advertise that there's a new series of a show that there isn't. So, I mean, that's the prompt. It's a very basic prompt, just does have the word new series in it. And that works very well at identifying it. So that's just kind of going through all of the images that we've got and flagging it as does it have the word new series in. And just proving kind of the types of images that we use. And then we've got a load of Slack notifications. So these ping off all over the place when stuff goes well and when stuff goes badly. We've had kind of silent errors where we had Slack notifications if something goes wrong, but then stuff went wrong that wasn't hitting one of these errors, and so we were just sat there going, well, everything's happy, and it wasn't. So we have a lot of them. Things like if someone's edited the block list, just so someone's not kind of hacking the system and block listing a load of stuff. We've got one at the bottom just telling us I found some new content. We had a while where it was not finding any new content, apparently. That was just an issue. There's always new content every single day. And then we get this yellow one on the right-hand side, which is a warning that there's some duplicates. There is a Slack API, but we're not using it. We're just using the Quest package because it's quite straightforward. I think you can do a bit more with the Slack API and send images and stuff, but as all our messages are text, it's kind of easier just to use the requests package. And then we've got some human intervention. So everything goes live into Meta without any intervention, but we have a Plotly Dash app that allows humans to kind of configure what goes in. So it looks like this. There's various different tabs across the top. This is the block list app, so you can put in an ID of a show, verify that it's the right show, and it'll go off and kind of just make sure that, like, here's the name of the show and things like that. And then you can add that. And when you do that, it automatically removes it from Meta's catalogue as well. So if it's a show that's accidentally gone out and we're promoting something, you can kind of remove it straight away. We've then got a green list, which is the opposite. So this is set up. We have different IDs for content. So we have a brand ID. So the Traitors is a brand. Then you've got series within that, and then you've got episodes. We only promote the brands and films because films don't have a brand. But occasionally there are shows where we want to promote either series or episodes because sometimes the data is just rubbish. Sometimes there's a good reason. So this is a show, Who Do You Think You Are? We could promote the show, Who Do You Think You Are? Which is celebrities tracing their family trees. But each individual episode is a different celebrity. And so, some people might like Amy Dowden and think, I'll go and watch that one, but I'm not interested in any of the others. So you can come here and you can put in the episode for the Amy Dowden episode, and it'll go and create the assets and start promoting that individual episode. In the case where we have either the wrong hero assets or duplicates, you can come here and safely delete them. We don't automatically delete them because we want to be able to debug what's gone wrong. But the button to delete it, make sure that, particularly in the duplicates case where you've got kind of two versions, making sure one of those is being promoted, the other one is not. So you want to make sure that you're deleting the one that Meta's not currently reading from. A diagnostics tab. This was to save me a bit of time. I had a lot of problems with people asking me, why is the show I want not being promoted? It's always because the metadata is rubbish, but it would take me like 2 hours to find that out. So I basically built this, and it goes through and it just gets loads of information. It's got some logic in there. I can read that and work out where it's gone wrong, but for people less familiar with the data, it then gives a little ChatGPT summary at the end. So here it's saying that's the episode of Who Do You Think You Are, and we don't promote episodes, so you need to go and greenlist it. And then the config. So this is just kind of deciding what goes into the catalogue. So we've got a filter on how popular a show needs to be in the catalogue. We're still kind of playing around with that. Obviously, the smaller a show is, the more shows you get in the catalogue, but equally, you risk Meta spending kind of loads of time trying to work out how to promote a show that is only getting 100 people watching anyway, and it's like, it's not really worth the effort. Various other bits as well. Master brand is basically things like BBC linear channels, a bit more than that, but BBC One, BBC Two. We don't have news in there because it's almost always problematic. Cool. Should be doing okay for time. So just summary of kind of where we're at and where we're planning to go with this, because we've done a lot in terms of, we kind of focused on the automation and getting all of that set up. We've got a lot of kind of buy-in from budget people, but there's a lot more to do with it. So we've got this fully automated system that is deploying straight to Meta. So in terms of kind of headcount budget, it's quite light. We've got some AI in there, kind of quite safe uses of AI. We're not kind of doing generative fill where it can go wild. A lot of human configurable stuff, so people in marketing feel like they still have some control over it. But we have just focused on static square assets for now, and we're not doing any kind of cropping or anything like that. So there's work to be done in making those assets a bit more engaging. Where we're going is other paid platforms. So we're looking at TikTok and Snapchat. They all have different kind of requirements. TikTok want videos and to look really native, whereas Meta is quite happy to have kind of whatever you can get as long as it's the right size. We've just got some new templates from BBC Creative. So I created those templates that we're using, which shouldn't be the case because it doesn't pass the brand guidelines. So we're getting some new templates that do. We're going to A/B test them because I don't think they're any better, but that's time will tell. They have created some vertical assets though, so we'll be able to go, there's kind of different placements on Meta. Some require vertical assets, some require square, so we're only in some of them because we've only given them square. And then, yeah, looking at video and trying to get some of the assets that we have for, that we put out from organic social. So they're assets that we've already made that go out on the social accounts. They're designed for social media. They're going to do better than these static images. So we're trying to kind of hook into the API for the content management system for that and pull all of them in as well for the shows that we've got them for. Trailers is a fun one. So again, those bigger shows, we've got the videos. We know they're going to do better. They're again kind of rectangular. They work pretty well if you just crop it to the middle square. But BBC, being the BBC, the response is, no, you can't use that on social media because it's designed for TV. And you're like, okay, well, we'll just use still images then because that'll be better than cropping a video. But that's the argument, and they've won. So far, I don't think they'll last long with that one. And then we've kind of focused a lot more on the Meta side and those catalogue ads because it's the automation's easier. We want to do a lot more with iPlayer pre-rolls. It's just the kind of getting in front of audiences is still kind of a human bottleneck. So the scope for scaling is perhaps less. But we can do things like, regional accents in the voiceover to try and appeal to different audiences. that's it. The summary. So we've got this fully automated system. Let's go straight into paid social. There's a bit of AI in there and lots more to do.